Hi, Arun sir, can you hear me?
Audible, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Regular, you say something?
Wait, he's putting the audio in the thing.
हल्का सा echo है.
Am I audible?
Yeah, तो audible तो हल्का echo है तेरी आवाज में.
Echo हो रहा है.
हल्का.
I don't know. इसका ये चालू है क्या?
भी ठीक है, भी ठीक है.
अभी ठीक है? Okay.
मेघना तुम बोल.
Wait. She's sitting down.
Are we still echoing?
No.
Requesting students who are already on the meet to please get their classmates to join soon.
Yeah, hello, Christina, ma'am. Good evening. Good to see you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, very much. It's so
Hi.
great. Yes, uh, lovely. So, we have our students of architecture and interior design both who will
Uh-huh.
be attending this session. And
Awesome.
yes, yes, yes. Uh,
Will I be able to share my screen?
yes. Mridula ma'am, if you can coordinate with Arun to.
Just getting it done, sir. Just give me
Yes.
a second.
Okay, lovely. So thanks, ma'am, so much for actually shift of timing. We
No,
are actually wondering with that 10.5 hours of a difference in the timing.
I
So
know.
what
No,
would be a suitable time and all that? But
no.
it's so good. Right time, perfect time for us also.
Good. I'm so sorry. Like I didn't realize the time change, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, they can't reconnect it at 11 o'clock at night. That's not gonna work.
Yes.
Uh, no, this works perfectly.
Yeah. And Durga ma'am was also so very keen for having you on the session. So she insisted us like, why don't you speak to Christina and have her for the masterclass lecture series? I mean, she has been doing really good. And
Yeah,
we Google surfed your work. It's amazing. So
thank you.
it's so it's our
I'm
pleasure
so
to have
sorry
you.
it took so long to coordinate and that I had to change the dates. I really apologize.
No, no, no.
Um, it's
No, it's
been
a, it's our it's our honor. It's our honor for you, students to listen to you seriously. Thanks so much.
you're too sweet. You're
Yeah.
too sweet, Mandar.
We have our teachers also here, professors Anuj Gudekar sirs here, Mridula Pillai ma'am, Meghna ma'am, Bhakti ma'am. So all of them are here. So many of the teachers would also be joining us, joining this section.
Great. That's
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes.
Okay.
So Mridula ma'am, is it possible for Arun to kind of check how the presentation can be shared?
Sir, our backdrop has been taken down from sharing.
Okay.
So, ma'am can share the screen. There's an icon, ma'am, at the bottom of your screen that has a rectangle with an arrow in it.
Yes, it says
That
present
will
now.
allow you. Yes, that will
Okay.
allow you to share your screen.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I'm just gonna try it to test it. Let me see. Share just a tab or different window instead. Share just a tab. So let me try this. No, I gotta. I think it has to be this.
Ma'am, we are able to see your screen.
You can see it?
Yes, yes, we can see the screen. Yeah,
And do you see
we see
just
the
the
no, we see the full presentation screen right now with PPT presentation. You can go on for the complete screen share. The
so
complete.
yeah,
Ma'am,
I'm trying to do that, but it's let me see. There
ma'am, I think instead of,
Yeah,
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 now we
perfect,
can
it,
see.
it's,
perfect.
it's in place now. Yes.
It's in
Is that
place.
good? Okay,
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
perfect. And can you see me or
Yes, we
just
can see you in a window as well. Yes.
okay, perfect. Okay, great. So we're all set.
Okay.
Yes.
So should we begin?
You tell me whenever you're ready.
Mridula,
Yes, sir.
yeah, more participants also expected soon.
Uh, yeah, maybe a few more.
Yeah,
If we could wait 5 minutes if possible,
No
or
problem. That's perfect. I wanted to log on early to make sure everything was working and
absolutely.
yeah. So
yeah. In Mumbai, it's just started pouring a couple of days back. So, we have a rainy season out here right now and
uh,
very thoroughly raining. I mean, it rained throughout the day today.
it's raining here as well. In Puerto Rico.
Oh, so
Yeah.
nice.
Is Durga gonna be able to join us or we're not sure?
No, unfortunately not because she's having real difficult schedules. So we kind of connected her today in the morning, but then she apologized for not being there today. So, but
I
then she
miss
has,
her.
yeah, yeah. Yes.
We are going to be going live on YouTube as well, ma'am, with this session.
Okay.
So there will be a Google YouTube link created, and we will be editing it later and sharing it on our YouTube channel. So we will definitely be sharing that with Durga ma'am
Perfect.
once done. Yeah.
That's great.
So, ma'am, is this the first time that you're addressing students, or have you been attached to some institutes over there also?
Yes, we actually we give lectures all the time. My husband and I, both of us.
Oh, so
So
good, so good. So,
yeah.
sharing your experience with the students is so important. So good,
Yes, we're
amazing.
always trying to do that. See if the students can learn from our mistakes so they don't make the same ones.
Uh,
So I hope my dog is here with me. So I
oh,
hope
wow. Ah,
So cute. He's so cute.
I hope she behaves and doesn't start barking. Emmy, give me 1 second.
yeah. So, you have a working day today?
Yes, I do. I do. After this, I'm heading over to the office. I'm actually, it's funny. You'll find this funny maybe. So my husband and I are leaving for the month of July. We're gonna be traveling.
Okay.
As my husband turns 50 this year,
Oh,
and so we're gonna go travel. We'll be out of the office for the next month. So today is our last day in the office because we leave on Monday. And so we're doing dress as your boss day. And so all of us are dressing up like him. So right now I'm dressed like him, like he would be dressed.
That sounds like a lot of fun, ma'am. I think that's something we need to try at the institute. Mandar sir,
yes, yes.
you're going to have a dress as your boss day. We're going to look like you for a day.
I would love even if you take up the position also. I think Mridula, we can join.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
can
Yes,
start the whole session.
yes.
Yeah,
We
yeah, Miss
begin.
City. Yeah, good.
So, very warm good evening to all of you. A welcome to you at our first Insights Masterclass for the academic session 2023 and 24. We're extremely grateful to our management and to Durga ma'am for having extended our attempts at giving our students the best insights into the industry through expert lectures to not just the far reaches of our own country, but for having ensured it is an absolute worldwide exposure. Today, we are very grateful to have with us designer Cristina Villalón from the firm AD&V, Alvarez Diaz and Villalón, all the way from Puerto Rico.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited.
Designer Cristina Villalón is co-founder and managing principal partner at CODDI in Puerto Rico. She holds a Master's of Science degree in Interior Design from Pratt Institute and Bachelor of Arts in Art History from Pitzer College. She has also furthered her design studies in Copenhagen, Denmark. Ms. Cristina has designed projects across the globe in countries such as the US, Dominican Republic, Oman, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, and many more. Through her unique approach of a holistic design, coupled with an extensive experience and a strive for perfection in construction, renovation, and expansion of residential and commercial interiors, ma'am has won many accolades for many of her projects and recognition in a lot of media establishments as well. We really are very glad to have ma'am on board with us today. Without further ado, I now hand over the platform to Christina ma'am. Welcome ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today speaking to all of you. And hopefully, everything I'll share will be useful as you all embark in your own careers in architecture and interior design. So, my name is Cristina Villalón, and I'm going to tell you my story, our story, because it's a combined story. So, my story or our story begins with this is my husband and I on our wedding day. My husband is an architect. He studied at the University of Notre Dame, and I'm an interior designer. And like we were a young, very naive married couple. And like many married couples, we made a promise. And the promise that we made was that we would never, ever, ever, ever work together. Okay. So my husband had already started his firm. It was Alvarez Diaz Group when we got married. And soon after, I started my own firm, which is Villalón Interiors. And I did mostly residential design, high-end residential design. My husband worked mostly with developers, and he did a lot of multifamily housing and also remodeled single family homes. Okay. And so these were our offices in the beginning. Oh, actually, this was my husband's office. When I had our first daughter, I was working out of my car and I was always running around all over the place. And he said, why don't you take up a space in my office? And so that's my office on the left in the corner. And then we started sharing office space, but we weren't working together. Okay. So for many years we worked this way, and like most architects and interior designers, and what we were taught in school, you know, we thought if we work really, 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 really hard, and if we do great work for our clients, basically, you know, we're going to be recognized by our industry peers, and clients will keep coming to us, and the money is just gonna pour in, right? And so this is what we thought naively, and then for many years the formula seemed to work because you know, we were going, the word of mouth seemed to be working. Like my husband was designing multiple multifamily residential condominiums, and really anything anybody would ask us to do, we would do, because we were in that stage of our career where we were afraid that if we said no to something, anything, that we wouldn't get any more work. So it's like, can you design a restaurant? Sure. Can you design an office clinic? Absolutely. Can you design hotels, houses, anything? We would always say yes and just figure it out. Okay, so we did a little bit of everything. I'm showing you some of our work throughout the years. And then 2008 hit. And as I don't know if all of you were maybe too young to remember, or if you were alive, but 2008, the global economy crashed. And overnight, all the projects basically that my husband was working for on, all those projects were stopped. They were put on pause. And my husband really questioned whether he wanted to continue to be an architect. He was like, I don't think I'm cut out for this. We already had one daughter. I was pregnant with our second daughter. He woke me up in the middle of the night and he was like, I don't think I want to be an architect. I can't do this. I don't have the tools. Because in school, normally we're not taught the business part. You're taught all the design skills. And you're taught, you know, well, what I said before, if you work very hard and if you're a good designer, then clients are going to find you. And the truth is that business doesn't work that way. And we found out the hard way. So it was a huge reality check. And here we are in the middle of, a recession. There's jobs being cut. We were trying to keep our team. And so we realized very quickly we had to pivot. We had to pivot quickly. So what happened was that my project, since I did mostly residential design, my projects were installed. I had to finish them. So I was in the process of finishing these projects. And one of my clients who had designed his apartment, he was the owner of multiple retail stores in San Juan, Puerto Rico, shoe stores. And he needed an interior designer, and he asked me if I would consider, designing one of the stores. And I said I'd love to. I actually, when I did my master's, my thesis was in retail design. So yes, and of course we always said yes to anything. So absolutely I said yes. But I said I really need an architect for this, because it requires some mechanical and plumbing coordination and things like that. So luckily I'm married to one. And so I asked my husband to collaborate with me on this project. It wasn't the first project we were collaborating on, but they were few and far in between. So all of a sudden we start designing all these stores, and we became experts in retail design. We designed over 100 different stores all over the place, including, this is in Venezuela, and this is in Oman. And we quickly became known in the industry as retail experts. And the thing with retail design is, even during the global crash of the economy, many of the malls require that the retail stores keep their stores up to date. So every like 5 or 7 years, they had to redo their stores. So it's kind of, it was volume work. We had a lot of opportunities to design a lot of stores during the years. So we were doing that. And then we had our second reality check. So it was around I believe around 2012. My husband was in an elevator, and he ran into those offices that I showed you before. They were in the downtown of the downtown area of Puerto Rico. Okay, where the offices are. So he was in the elevator on his way up to the office, and he runs into the head of real estate of the main bank in Puerto Rico. See, I'm sorry, my dog is barking, so let me just throw this toy at her. Okay, so um so he was in the elevator. He runs into the head of the bank, and he had found out that the bank had put out an RFP, soliciting architecture services from a few different firms, but they hadn't included his firm. And so he's in the elevator, and he kind of looks up at him, and he says, I don't expect you to give me work, but I think that I'm the only architect in this building that pays you rent. So why won't you include me in the RFP? Why didn't you include my company in the RFP? And the guy turned around, and he looked at him, and he said, Ricardo's my husband. Ricardo, you're a really nice guy. And I know you do well because you pay your rent on time and stuff. But honestly, I have absolutely no idea what you do. And so that was our second reality check, which is, you know, you can't expect people to know what you're good at and what your specialty is and what you're capable of if you don't market that. And what has happened, at least in the United States with the American Institute of Architects, is that for many, many years, the AIA did not allow architects to market themselves. They would tell them that it was unethical, and that, and I think it was until the 70s, they couldn't market themselves at all. And so we realized we needed to unlearn everything we'd learned. Okay. And everything we had been told was a myth. And that really we needed to start developing some business savvy and some business lessons. So the profession as it's portrayed, right? This idea of Howard Rourke in The Fountainhead. If you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. But this idea of the star architect who works alone and that he has a vision for what the project should be, and he imposes that vision on the client and tells them how they should live. And and he's a genius who works on his own, like Frank Lloyd Wright is portrayed. um this idea is a complete myth, and this is the traditional model of architecture, and that model is dead. So things don't just happen, and clients don't just fall at your doorstep. Things are made to happen. And so back to the story, this married couple who had made a promise decided to break their promise. We broke our promise and we decided to merge our companies and create Alvarez Diaz and Villalón, which is our firm now. And the reason, it wasn't an easy decision to make, but the reason that we arrived at this was that we realized that honestly, when we work together, when architects and interior designers work together from the beginning with the same shared vision, the project and the result is better. It's better for the client, and it's better for the architect and the designer. Okay. It was very frustrating to me when I would come into a project that was new, maybe done by a different architect, and they hadn't thought of the interiors at all. And so I was like, now I have to tell my client that this new project or this new property that they just purchased doesn't work for their needs. And I have to tear apart things that are new. And this is not sustainable in the world that we live in. And it really was distressing. And so that was the reason we decided to join our firms. And when every architecture firm was like getting smaller and reducing their size, and they were like turning in their office space and they were moving to work from home, we actually did the opposite. We bet on the opposite. We assumed that that the world economy is cyclical. And so if it was so bad in 2008, what comes down must eventually go back up. And so we merged our companies and we moved to this space, which was a historic property in Santurce in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And we made the office a showroom of the possibility. We certified our offices LEED Platinum. We were the first architecture and interior design firm in Latin America to certify their offices LEED. These round things that you see in the picture, those are solar tubes. And basically this space was completely dark. And what we did was add these solar tubes, which bathed the entire space in natural light. So we basically didn't have to use artificial light at all. And we put in very efficient air conditioning systems. And so a space that would normally cost in energy and electricity use would cost thousands of dollars a month, we were paying less than $1,000 a month on our energy bills. And so we wanted to show our clients that designing sustainably is good for business. It's a win-win. It's a win for the environment, but it's also a win for the client. So these were our offices in Ciudadela, and we were now working together after breaking our promise. But it wasn't peaches and cream, okay? Those years were pretty hard in the beginning. And the reason was because we each had our way of running our businesses. And the truth is, we needed to come up with a new business model together. His wasn't going to work, and mine wasn't going to work. We used to say yes to everything, but now we had to decide, okay, now that we're together and there's more of us, and we have to decide what kind of projects are we going to take on? How do we want to work together? And for me, before this, I was very much concerned with design. I was like, I have to and I'm a perfectionist, so I wanted to do everything perfect. And it didn't really matter to me if I was being cost efficient or if I was making money in the process. As long as I provided a good design, I thought that was enough. I'm like, if I do a great design, then the client's going to be happy. They're going to refer me and I'm going to get more work. But, you know, my husband would tell me, like, okay, you're not working sustainably, and the reason that you're able to provide all this time and effort to your designs so they come out perfect is because, in a way, I am subsidizing your operation, you know. So he was concerned about the business part and less about the design. And so it wasn't that he didn't care about the design, but he had been working with many developers, and the developers were more concerned about what it was going to cost and how long it was going to take than the end result of the design. And like my husband says sometimes, many people don't know the difference between good and bad design. Like you as a designer may know, but clients or the you know, the mass community doesn't know the difference between good and bad, but they do know the difference between good and bad service. So together, we decided to come up with a new business model, and that required a lot of introspection. But before we did that, this lady, I'm sorry, it's pixelated, but this lady you see on the screen, her name is Kimberly Selden. And I like to say that she really changed my life. And the reason is I went to a furniture show in High Point, North Carolina, where there's an annual, actually, there's a biannual furniture show in High Point, North Carolina, in the United States. And I try to go at least once a year. And so I was at this show, and I looked over and I saw that this person, I didn't know who she was, Kimberly Selden, was going to be speaking about the business of design. And I said, you know, I should probably listen to that because I definitely need the business skills. Okay. So I walked into this lecture hall and I listened to her speak. And she started telling her story, and she started saying basically all the mistakes that she'd made from the beginning of her career. And every single story that she said, I could relate to because I had been there, done that. Yep, that happened to me already. Yep, I did that. And usually it happens, especially to interior designers. I think it happens to architects as well, because you love what you do so much that you're willing to do it for free. And you just want the opportunity to design something. So the part about charging for it is secondary. You just really want to do the project and create something and bring it to life. And so that's fine at the very, very, very early stages of your career, maybe while you're building up a small portfolio. But the truth is, it's not business savvy, and we are in a profession. Architecture and interior design is a profession. It's not a vocation. And the problem is, as long as one architect or one designer is willing to do their work, their job for free, then what happens is that the whole industry is affected negatively, because clients, and it's not their fault, they just don't value it as much because someone's willing to do it for free. So we are constantly actually lecturing on this topic and trying to teach students kind of like what not to do, because in order for the profession to improve and to be better compensated, we need to work together as a team to elevate the entire profession. So this process of introspection that we went into, we started really analyzing what is it that we wanted to do. And a good way to do this, oh yeah, there's a lot of fear involved, because you're afraid, you're afraid that you are, that if you say no, that if you start getting picky, that you might not get more work, you know, or like, who am I to say no to a client and what they want, you know, all this negative self-talk and this, you know, imposter syndrome takes over, and you're just not sure. So I would suggest, and this is what we did, and this is a journey. This is something that could take years. It's not something you sit down and you do in 5 minutes and you figure it out. But if you haven't heard of the Ikigai, you may have already heard of this, but think about what you love to do, okay? What you're really, really good at, what the world needs, and what someone is willing to pay you to do. And the center, the intersection of those four things is your ikigai. It's where your passion meets your mission, your profession, and your vocation. Okay. And another way to go about this exercise is to use the Johari window. And the Johari window basically is a quadrant, and you can write down things you love to do and you're really, really good at, things you love to do, but you're not that good at, things you don't love and you're not good at, and things you don't love but you're actually pretty good at, and once you write those in those quadrants, you really should try and focus most of your time and effort and energy on the things that you love to do and that you're really, really good at. And everything that you're terrible at and that you don't love or you don't like at all, find someone to delegate to. A really, really wise person told me once that anything that you can outsource to someone to do, to paying them less than your time costs you, that's not a cost, that's an investment. Okay, so delegate everything that you're not good at and you don't love, and find your purpose, find what you're really good at, what moves you, and what's great. Because many times we know what we do and we know how we do it, but we're not really thinking about why. Okay, and why we do things is really the key. Like Simon Sinek says, start with why. So an organization that doesn't have purpose just manages people and resources, but an organization with purpose mobilizes people and resources. So, as the leader of your organization, or if you decide to go on your own, or even if you don't decide to go on your own, if you decide to get a job, it's important that you understand the business part of design, because it affects how we go about doing our work each day. So if you are the leader of your organization, it's your job to articulate why you do what you do. And then the people who believe the same things you believe will be attracted to you. And nowadays it's so hard to attract talent. There's so much talent in the world, but if you talk to any firm anywhere in every single industry, people are not being able to attract talent. And I think COVID played a huge role in this. I think what happened was people had time to really stop and reflect and think about, they were in the hamster wheel, just going through the motions, doing everything they needed to do, but they hadn't really stopped to think, what is truly important? My health, my family, what do I want to do? And so I think a lot of people, it's not the great resignation, it's the great adaptation. Like, people are merging to do jobs and things that really fill them and are meaningful. And so when you articulate what that purpose is, the people who believe what you believe can be drawn to your organization. Okay, and you can create a great team culture, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the team culture that we've created. It also helps you with employee loyalty, and it creates a community engagement and helps you identify who you want to work with, because it's not only the people in your organization, but also the clients that you choose to work with. In the beginning, like I said, we were fearful, we were afraid, we had to say yes to everything. But nowadays, we choose who we want to work with, and we make sure that those people share our same values, because life is too short. It's absolutely too short to not enjoy it to the fullest and not be having the best possible time at work every day, because most of your life is spent working. So that should be a pleasant experience. So articulate your why, develop a mission and vision statement. And by the way, we didn't do this for years, for more than a decade before we didn't even think about these things. We were just, doing our work, designing, and then we produced work, and somebody else heard about us and they'd call us and we do something else. We never thought about any of these things, which are really business skills and things that businesses do when they want to grow and scale. So we developed a mission statement, we developed a vision statement. Your mission is more about what you want to accomplish, and your vision is like your why, your reason for existing, you know, what it is that moves you. And so we articulated our vision and mission this way. So we wanted to positively transform people's lives, okay? And by designing places of purpose. To us, you know, each place that we design should have purpose. And so how do we go about designing these places of purpose? We feel that it's not our job to impose on our clients how they should live or what they should do or how they should run their operations. No, instead, we see ourselves as facilitators. We are translators. Our clients many times have a tough time articulating what it is they want to do. And what we try to do is understand, grasp what they're, ask the right questions, and then we help them translate their vision into a cohesive and user-centric sustainable design solution. Why a user-centric? Because we like to design from the inside out, because we use spaces from the inside out, and we want to be concerned about what is the client experience going to be. So we also articulated our values. This is the ADV way, okay? We want to live, work, and design the ADV way. And what is the ADV way? We want to make a difference. We want to keep growing. We want to stay humble always. We want to put our people first, or all people first, own it, and bring solutions. And we want to design in a way that's holistic, intentional, and sustainable. So here's 6 steps to grow your business. Okay, you need to really articulate what is it that you provide, what's your product, or your typology that you're focusing on. So I mentioned that for many years we became retail experts, but when we analyzed why we were in business and what was important to us, for us it was really important to design sustainably. And in retail, it's not that that is impossible, but there is a conflict there. Even though we were trying to educate our clients to design those retail stores in a way that was more sustainable, the industry itself is based on, you know, constantly changing. So this idea of every 5 to 7 years redoing the store and throwing everything away and starting from scratch, it's not a sustainable long-term vision. So it was in direct conflict with our beliefs. Okay. And you know, we just realized that retail was not the typology that we wanted to work on. We really wanted to impact people's lives. And so we focused our efforts. We had the opportunity, actually, because we bet on what I mentioned before. Instead of going home and reducing, we kept our team, we kept our infrastructure, and we created a showroom for our clients to see. That gave us the opportunity to get some projects, some affordable housing projects in Puerto Rico. And so we started designing affordable housing, and it was such fulfilling work to be able to give people that didn't have the opportunity an opportunity to live in a place that really helped them empower themselves and not have to worry about the instability of not knowing where to live or not being able to afford your rent. And so we decided we were going to focus on multifamily housing, affordable housing in particular, and then other typologies like hospitality, and then commercial and institutional, including K through 12 schools, because we feel these typologies have a stronger impact on people. And ultimately, we want to impact people positively. So what is your product? What is it that you do? And what's your value added? How do you do it? How do you do it differently? Who's your team? What's your infrastructure? When you define these things and you really show your potential clients what they are, then the right clients will be attracted to you. They'll find you because you're speaking their language. So these are the typologies we focused on. I already mentioned it, but commercial, institutional, hospitality and wellness, and multifamily and mixed use. We articulated what we do this way. We offer one holistic option that's from the inside out and the outside in simultaneously. Okay. And we always keep the user in mind and the user experience. Our added value, we determined, and we did some research, we analyzed. So this is an interesting fact. It applies to the US. I'm not sure if globally, but in most architecture firms in the US, only 2 out of 10 projects that they design actually get built. Okay. So we checked to see what's our percentage, and we found out that 7 out of 10 projects that we design get built. And we started asking ourselves, why is this? What is it that we're doing differently? And we realized that it's because we provide so much more than just design. So we see our clients as partners from the beginning, and they come to us with, sometimes they have a piece of land, but they don't know what to do with it. They don't have the vision. So we help them figure out what they should do with that land. We give them the strategy, and then we say, we connect them with financing options, and we connect them with the potential players. We're connectors with potential people that can make that project become a reality. And so I think that is like the key to what we do very differently. So we articulated this so people would know and be able to find us. And so we listen very carefully. This is how we do it. We listen very carefully. We provide clear expectations, strategy, transparency. We tell people what it is. I mean, we lost some of that fear that we had in the beginning. In the beginning, it was like we were afraid to tell the client, no, you can't do that, or no, that's going to cost too much, because we were afraid they'd say, they'd leave, or they wouldn't believe us, or whatever. So we made a lot of decisions out of fear. But once we started being very transparent and saying, no, you can't do that by that date. It's impossible. You're not going to be able to accomplish that. Like when you manage expectations and you are real with the client, as long as you're obviously respectful and say things in a respectful manner, people get that and they appreciate it. I don't know how many horror stories we hear, unfortunately, about architects and interior designers where they promise something and then they don't follow through. And I don't think it's even the designer's fault. I think the only fault of the designer is not knowing when to say no. Like clients don't know how complicated the process is. And so you need to speak their language, not architecture talk or speak or designer speak and lingo that they don't understand. You need to speak their language, and you need to be real with them and tell them, yes, what you want is possible, or what you're asking for is not possible. And this is the time that it really takes, because you are the professional. You're the one who knows. So we offer a simplified design process, permitting strategies. We make sure that our designs are coordinated, and like I said, we're working together, architects and interior designers, making sure that everything is well coordinated and cohesive. And then we use all of our relationships to make sure we're connecting the dots and we're making things happen. So this is our leadership team. This is my husband again, and this is Monique, who was our president and COO, which we hired a few years ago to help us with the team. And this is our team. And over there on the left, you'll see Emmy, who is my dog, and she's also our chief happiness officer in the office. This is our office now. The space that I showed you before, we moved into a new, larger space, which is actually 4 times the size of the one that I showed you before. And we moved during the pandemic. So again, we basically repeated the playbook that we had done in 2008. And this time we were less fearful. So we were betting that, we wanted to keep our team, and we wanted to make sure that we had the right team. So during COVID, we made sure, we spent a lot of time on that introspection and really, re-articulating our values and our mission, our vision, making sure that everybody in our company really drank the Kool-Aid and really should be there, because not everyone believes what you believe, and that's okay. That's fine. They have their own path, but you want to make sure that whoever's in your company with you, they should believe the same thing you believe, because if you're working together with the same north, then the chances of you reaching those goals are going to multiply exponentially. Okay. And so now we've really focused our efforts on using our business as a platform and as a force for good in the world. Okay. So most businesses, 90% of businesses are small businesses. So don't think like, oh, if I go on my own and I only have a couple of people working for me, that you can't make an impact, because you can. Okay. 90% of businesses are small businesses globally, and they account for 50% of the jobs in the world. So whatever you do, do it intentionally. You should design the company that you wish that you worked at. Okay. Because we spend most of our time at work, and you want to make sure that that time is pleasant, is joyful, is happy. And so, these are some of the things to consider when you're considering your business as a force for good. These are some of the things that we've applied, or that we try to take a look at, like gender equality, work-life balance, supporting women so they don't have to leave the workforce when they have kids, giving them that flexibility and that support so they can continue to work and add value to the world. Well-being. If we don't have health, we can't work. So it's in everyone's best interest to stay healthy, and both mentally and physically. Personal and professional development. If we're not growing, then really we're just slowly dying, right? So we always have to keep learning and developing personally and professionally, giving back to society, performing, socially responsibly, and giving back to the community, making sure that we're paying fair living wages, so that we can provide decent economic growth, and make sure that the actions that we take place in our business are contributing positively to the planet and the climate crisis that we're currently living in. As designers and architects, we have a superpower. We are the ones who specify. We are the ones who design. And so we can make educated choices, and we can choose suppliers that are acting responsibly and that are paying attention to how their business practices affect the world overall. So these are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We joined the UN in 2019, the UN Global Compact in 2019. And basically, all that means is that we subscribe to these 17 goals, okay? And as a company, we are going to play our part to try and make sure that these goals are accomplished by 2030, okay? And if you look at these goals, no poverty, zero hunger, reduced inequalities, these are all things that we can all agree on, regardless of our political views or anything like that. So we, as part of the UN Global Compact, they offered an accelerator. We participated in this accelerator, and the idea was to help us set more ambitious corporate sustainability goals. And we were doing a lot of things organically in our company, but we weren't really measuring what we were doing. And so this accelerator really helped us start to develop a data-driven organization where we started measuring all our efforts. And as part of this accelerator, the benchmark that we chose was that, so something funny about this accelerator. We joined, at the time there was 20 people in our firm when we joined. And the other companies there were like Google and Microsoft and 3M. I mean, they all had hundreds of thousands of employees, and then it was us with 20. And so we looked at the benchmarks, and one of the benchmarks was 100% of the people in your organization earn a living wage. And so we said, okay, that's the least intimidating one, because this accelerator was really made for larger companies, right, with a different scale of problems. So what happened was we chose that, and we said that should, we're pretty sure we're paying a living wage, but let's just validate it, and then, we should be good, and then we can set some more ambitious goals to exceed the living wage, not just pay the bare minimum. So we started this process, and we looked for the living wage in Puerto Rico. And to our surprise, we found that there was no data in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is not a place that deals with a lot of data. So there was no data, no, actually, like, we didn't appear in the living wage calculator. So we contacted MIT. The MIT has the living wage calculator, and we called them up and we said, we really are looking for this data on Puerto Rico. Have you ever considered including Puerto Rico in the living wage calculator? And they said a few people had made the approach, but they never had actually done it, and they needed funding. So we started looking for funding for them so that we could provide it, and we did. We ended up hooking them up with the funding, and so we've been working with them ever since to try and get Puerto Rico on the living wage calculator, and hopefully by this year or next year we'll finalize this project, which has been years in the making. But for all our efforts and everything we did, this is the Carla Joan from AD&V. She was recognized as an SDG Pioneer finalist. And along with, as you can see, Pepsi, Microsoft, Repligen, huge companies, and then us. And so all that validated for us is that you're never too small to make a huge impact, okay? What gets measured gets improved. And so if you're intentional about your actions, you can make things better. And so this accelerator opened our eyes to data, and we started measuring. Like, we had all these organic efforts, like, these are all the women in our organization. Most of our firm is actually women. It's like, it used to be 80-20. Now we've hired a few more men, and we don't discriminate against men, although we're partial to women. But we would do all these things. We would community service activities, beach cleanups. We'd go paint murals in the community and plant trees, and we would do all these things, but we weren't measuring what we were doing. So we created a dashboard, and we started measuring all of our organic efforts, and we tied them all to the Sustainable Development Goals. And then these are some of the things we started measuring. So, like, how many women in organization, in the C-suite, in leadership, how many women overall, how many new hires were women, how many women had we promoted. We provide a health and wellness benefit for our team to encourage them to stay healthy. They can use it for whatever they want. It's $50 a month, and to be applied however they wish to do it. They can buy a Peloton bike, or they can go to kickboxing, they can go to yoga. It really doesn't matter. But it's a reimbursement, because we want to make sure they use it towards health and wellness. So this is how many team members were taking advantage of it, and how many were women, how many were men. And we started tracking this so that we can see who's using it, who's not using it, and what do we have to do to get everybody more engaged, right? This is how many community service hours that we were putting in, and how many donations we gave throughout the year. And we started measuring all the lives that we were impacting by our projects, both direct impacts and indirect impacts. And so all this data inspired us to publish an impact report. So the first impact report we published was in 2021. And then last year we published the 2022 one. The 2022 one is double the size as the 2021 one. So you know, as you start doing this, you get more sophisticated, and it's like momentum. You just want to keep doing and doing more. And it really, um, it really visibilizes all your efforts. So it's a great thing. So we are now in the process of becoming B certified as a company. We should, I think we're in the final stages of this, so we should get certified this year. And for those of you, if you don't know what a B Corp is, a B Corporation is basically a company that is committed to using their business as a force for good, and that voluntarily holds itself accountable to the most stringent social and environmental responsibility. So basically, you're transparent about all your business practices, and you are trying to improve upon them constantly, and you're transparent about everything you do. So we're in the process of getting certified. We also decided to join the AIA 2030 commitment, which is a commitment for everything that we design as a firm to be carbon neutral. The AIA started this. It's aligned to the SDG goals for 2030. The built environment is 40% of the world's emissions. Okay. And so architects and designers have a huge role to play here. If we are more intentional about what we actually specify and how we design our buildings and how we specify in interiors, we can make a huge dent here and work towards accomplishing the sustainable development goals. And so as part of the SDGs, we create partnerships with all kinds of, we use all our networks, we connect with them. So we are YPOers, I'm an EOer. There's local organizations in Puerto Rico, Guayacán, Seriously Creative, that we're always trying to educate and speak, and national partners, Notre Dame, the university where my husband went, Habitat for Humanity, we designed pro bono for them, the Urban Land Institute. And so never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. It's the only thing that ever has. This is my favorite quote by Margaret Mead. And so don't think that from wherever you are, you can't make an impact. Keep these things in mind as you develop your own businesses, or as you choose where to work for when you go into the field. And, you know, don't be intimidated. Start where you are. Do what you can with what you have, and slowly this will grow and create momentum and become more sophisticated. That's it. Thank you so much. And if anyone has questions, I'd be happy to elaborate on anything.
Yeah, this was amazing. The values that your office is actually practicing is something like, there's so much of takeaway, and what should be a work culture at an office, and if you are really managing to get this across, is something really good.
By the way, I just realized that I have a typo here. Our handles in LinkedIn and in Instagram, if you want to follow us, is ADV Firm. I wrote ADF Verm, so I apologize for that. But please follow us so you can see Emmy. Emmy has her own Instagram account too. It's called Emmy Going Places. And so I'd love to stay in touch with the students and be available if anyone needs anything. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Did it stop? Did it stop sharing?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, good.
Any questions from the students? Can we have questions from the students? I think it's a lot to take in, ma'am.
Yes, it's a lot. I hope it's what you wanted to hear. I wanted to tell you a little bit about our journey, what we learned along the way, you know, show you some of our work and where we're headed now and what we're doing. So it's been a long journey over 20 years. My husband, I mentioned, he turns 50 and he's like ready to retire. He's so tired. So he's probably gonna be stepping down, and I'm gonna be taking over. I have a few more years in me, I think. And but yeah, but really, what's really exciting me and motivating me now is to use the business as a platform for good and a social good, and it's a win-win. It's a win-win for everyone. And when you do that, you know, work becomes better, the quality of the clients, the quality of the work, and the quality of the people that you surround yourself with every day, because you have a north and you're working together towards something, a meaningful purpose. And when you do that, it just makes your days easier. You know, it's like less of the like, oh my God, you know.
But it's so good. I mean, it's so similar to know that practices there in US and the practices here in Mumbai also. You know, when you're saying that pleasing clients and like uh, we should sometimes pause. We should say no, and then all the community, the architects and the interior designers, being there at the same page when it comes to taking a fees and
Yeah.
all that. So very similar because we also face similar challenges here.
Yeah.
So, really good to know about it.
Yeah, it happen. I
Yes.
think it happens. It happens everywhere. So I don't know in India, but the developers here in the States, they're used to getting the designs for free many times, or like they'll have multiple architects give them proposals, and then they're like, "Oh, I think I like this one," and so, but everyone's working for free, and then one person might get it, but who compensates that time?
Yes.
And we sell time and expertise at the end of the day. And so, it's hard because sometimes you really want that project. So you're like, well, if I don't even participate, then I don't have a chance to win it. But unless we all, stick together and hold our ground and say it's the only profession, I feel it's the only profession that has all this liability, because it has so much liability. So much responsibility. It's a very hard profession. You're taking into account like so many different things, and it's expensive also to study this profession. There's 7 exams you have to pass, or I think now there's 6 exams you have to pass as an architect in order to get licensed. I mean, it's more than lawyers, but no lawyer would write anything up for you without charging you immediately
So
the
true.
second you start consulting with them.
Very
But
true.
for us, we're constantly being consulted and for free, or second guessed, or people are like, oh, I can do that. I think there's a misconception about the value that we add. And I think that we need to work together to make sure that everybody understands the value of the profession, and the only way that happens is if everyone's aligned. Like, so we are actually writing a book right now that addresses this. It's called Survive, Thrive, or Be Extinct, and it's the business of architecture. So we're working on it, and hopefully it will be ready next year. And we will also be start sharing it and lecturing about it, and hopefully hopefully getting this out to the schools, because that's where this all starts.
Yes. Yes.
There's
I'm
so
sure.
much you put into this, ma'am. It's been more like a life lesson. I think more than a master class. I think it's been a life lesson.
Very true.
And there's so much that we relate to, because as architects and as teachers, we go through a lot of this on a daily basis. And it's something that we try to instill in our students as well, like you need to own your work, you need to love your work, and the minute you love it, you want value for it. So I think that's something that everybody needs to understand. You need it to belong to you.
Yeah.
And also the entire thing of business not being taught in a design school, so it means a lot for us to go out and create something, and we completely forget the value that it has, because for us we've already got the value that it means, to be able to create it. So we've
Yeah.
forgotten that it's supposed to bring back monetarily as well. And I think that's something that we really need to instill right from day one. Very, very true.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we are getting all these talks of AI coming into the market, and is it going to be able to replace designers? And I think this is where it comes in, that AI is not going to be able to do this. It's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be able to do what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's where we as human beings step in. And it's
Yeah.
something that we need to teach our students to cope with what's coming in the future.
Our, the designer I mentioned that I listened that changed my life, Kimberly Seldon. She has a book. I call it the Bible. Actually, more than, she has 3 books. I call them the Bible, so I have them on my desk. It's called Business of Design, and she says that really it's 80% business and 20% design. Okay, and she talks about those things. Those. I forget what she calls them. I think it's the ah, I'm going blank right on what she calls them, but it's a trap. When a client says, like, the client calls you in November and they want something done by Thanksgiving, and they want to remodel a whole bathroom by Thanksgiving. There's no way to get it done because it's just not enough time. But because you don't want to disappoint them, you say something like, "Well, I'm gonna try." And what the client hears is not that, no, this is not going to be able to be done. They hear, oh, she just made a promise to get it done. So when you don't get it done because it was impossible from the get-go, now the client thinks that you messed up. But you didn't mess up. What happened was that you weren't forthcoming, and you weren't forthcoming because you want to please. You want to please them, and you don't want to tell them the truth. And the thing is that if we do that, we don't look professional. And it happens with a lot of the creative fields. So the moment that you take somebody's money for something, it doesn't matter if it's a creative field. You are a professional and you need to act like a professional. And unfortunately, we fall into the trap. I mean, I've been there. I did it. I made these mistakes already. So um and I don't want to keep making them. It frustrates me to no end, right? But I'm human too. I'm a total people pleaser. I don't like to say no to anyone. But you have to be realistic about what you can accomplish and what you can't. And so if you get a chance, look her up. Business of Design. She has a community and it's fantastic. She teaches a whole system, and it's not a paid advertisement. I just completely believe in her 100%, and it changed me. It really helped me get aligned with my husband on what we needed to do going forward. And since then, we've been able to really grow the company and start making much better business decisions and designing better work and more impactful, meaningful work. Not just anything that came around just because we were scared that we wouldn't have more work. So
Amazing. Good.
So a lot of these students listening to you right now, ma'am, are students who are in their 4th and final year of architecture, some of them in their final year of interior design, and some of them in their 2nd year of interior design. So these are things that I'm hoping are going to echo, in their years, in their a couple of years down the line, because right now it's something that they're listening to, and it's not something that is going to sink in till they actually get into the situation.
yeah. Yep, exactly. And once you're in the situation, maybe you'll remember, like, oh, I remember what that designer said. What was it she mentioned? Let me look it up, because it happens to all of us. And so it's a process, you know. In the beginning, you're gonna want to do anything because you want to show people what you can create, you know. And so even though I would suggest don't do it for free, try at least charge something, you know, or do something for yourself for free, you know, so that you can showcase what you can do, or for your parents or your sister or someone you love, you know, that you know that you would probably do it anyway, right? So but if someone hires you, charge them, charge them what's fair. Because you have value, and you went through school and you learned all these things, and you're applying your skill sets, and basically your intellectual creativity, and that should be compensated. You know, slavery is dead. Or it should be.
Yes.
Very true, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's been a wonderful session the last hour. Like I said, absolutely life lessons for everybody. I've made a lot of notes, and I hope they've made their notes too. You know, just things that just struck a chord with me, is things that I've been writing down. And it's something that I think all of us need to go back and think about and understand what we do and why we do it and how we are making that difference. I think that last bit is the most important, because being part of society, I think, is necessary for all of us to decide to make a difference, because that's the only way we are going to progress.
Yeah.
I think we have a question. Yes, Nava.
Nabha has to ask.
Uh, First of all, hello, ma'am. I'm Naba Ansari, and I'm from fourth year BH. And I had a little question. It's more about I'm a person who is really very close to the nature, and I'm a person who really likes to go sustainable. But in India specifically, there are a lot of people who might not care about the environment as much as a person who likes the nature would. So, how would you, as an architect or as a designer, you convince such type of people to design sustainably when they really do not know much about sustainable or really do not care much about going sustainable, especially at the times where going sustainable can be a little bit more expensive.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. So, Naba, thank you for your question. I actually go through that every day. So, because a lot of my clients don't really, yeah, care as much as I do. Let's put it that way. And so, but that's the beauty of it, that you, as the designer, you have the superpower in your hands, because the more you educate yourself on design practices and on suppliers and everything else, you can actually make those choices. And they don't even have to know. In a way, you're providing a design that's beautiful, right? And I've always thought, so our offices, um we use that was the example we wanted to show, that regardless of what people might think, that, oh, if you design sustainably, it's not going to be as pretty, or it's not going to be as nice. That it was a myth, that wasn't true, that you can design sustainably and it can be just as nice or even nicer than not taking into consideration many of those things. And so, yes, it's true that perhaps it can be a little more expensive, but not necessarily. Because if you consider life cycles also, the whole life cycle, then many times you can actually make a case also for designing sustainably. So, for example, are you an interior designer or an architect?
I'm an architecture student.
You're an architect. Okay, so perfect. So in your case, it applies even more, because if you look at the 2030 commitment, for example, it provides different frameworks for designing sustainably. Okay, and the first framework in architecture is really design principles that you can apply, that have been around for years. Okay, that we we let go. Okay, the Greeks were doing these. So like things like cross ventilation and where you set up your site to make sure that uh, that the sun, the location of the sun and where it hits, there's certain design principles that you can apply to your site as early as the site, before you even get into additional like energy producing which means things that would cost money, like choosing a more efficient energy system, for example, or sustainable renewable resources for energy. Before getting into any of that, there's a lot of design principles that you can apply that will make that building or that house or whatever you're designing more sustainable. Okay, and so I think it's like 70% of it is in those decisions that you make. So that's why it's so important that you educate yourself so that you can make these decisions when you provide the design solution for your client. And so you will be designing sustainably whether or not they asked you to do so or not. So this is what I mean, that you have the superpower in your hands, because you in a way, you're going to inform a lot of the decision making that they're going to make without them even knowing. And if in the process you also educate them on why it's important and make the case. So for example, the example that I shared with you about the electricity. So the electricity costs, if we had not put in the most efficient air conditioning and if we had not put in those solar tubes in that office, okay, we would have been paying over $6,000 a month, okay, or more. And so we made an investment in the solar tubes. We repaid that investment within 6 months. Okay. Yes, we had to put the money up front, right? And make the investment, but within 6 months we had repaid it. And so that's why, I mean, if you think about the life cycle cost, and if the client can afford it, sometimes they don't have the money up front, but nowadays there's financing options. There's in renewables, like in solar energy, there's so many companies that are offering programs to actually provide the systems, and then they charge you a fee, and it ends up repaying itself. Like in Puerto Rico, we have so much sun, it's crazy. In my house, we designed our house with solar tiles, and so basically we can go off grid if we want to, and it looks just as beautiful. My house looks just as beautiful as if I hadn't taken this into consideration. I am the beneficiary because energy is so expensive here and I don't need to have a power plant with the diesel, which anytime the energy goes out here, and it goes out often, I can barely breathe from the fumes of the diesel plants, power plants from the neighboring houses. But in my house, I don't have a diesel plant. It's all solar power. So it's like I stay inside, indoors, to protect the air that I breathe, which is also, it goes back to also air quality. I mean, our health is priceless. Okay. And so the air we breathe should be a huge concern for everybody. And so if you can start plugging in why it makes sense, and always use, the business tool, what's in it for them. Think what is in it for them. If I were in their shoes, what would concern me, and then use those things to sell them on why it makes sense to design that way, or why you're presenting that solution. Okay. And then that also adds value to you as a designer, because you are presenting them this solution that they didn't even ask for and they don't even know about. And then tell them, listen, I'm giving you this solution and it considers this, and this. And so, and this is important because of this, and this. And then you're helping the profession, you're helping the client, you're helping everyone. It's a win-win.
Thank you, ma'am. That was really very enlightening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naba. Ma'am, that was a wonderful answer. Any other questions from the students? Like I said, ma'am, I think it's a lot for them to
I know
just
that's
take
right.
in.
Well,
I
please
mean,
feel free if anyone has any questions that come up and you want to reach out. I would be happy to connect with you. My email was in the slide, and Mandar, if you want, I can share the presentation with you via email, and
Yeah,
and
no,
and you,
that will be
and you
really
can,
good. Yeah.
yeah, and you can share it with the students. And then if anyone wants to reach out, feel free. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn,
Yes.
and I wish you all the best in your careers, and go out there and change the world for the better.
Yes.
Okay, and God
Yes.
bless
thank
you
you.
all. Take
Yes.
care. Thank you so much for inviting
So
me.
much
It's been
fun.
an honor.
Yes. I'll
It's been a
communicate
pleasure,
this,
ma'am.
but it was an amazing session. I'll be speaking this to Durga ma'am as well, and I'll communicate. This was a great opportunity that we could interact with you. So
Great.
thank you so much. If you plan
Thank
any
you.
time to come to Mumbai, I mean, we are here to host you. Please do come down to our institute. Yeah,
I would love
any
to.
plan?
I would love
Love
to.
to
I've
have you
never been.
here.
I've never been to Mumbai. I'd love to go.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Well, take care, everybody, and God bless you, and thank
Yes,
you.
yes. Thank you so much, ma'am. Yes,
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a wonderful session.
You're
thank you.
welcome.
Yes. Yes, so Mridula, so let
Yeah.
everyone, yeah, leave.
Thank you, students, for
Thank you,
joining.
students, for joining. Yeah.
There's a lot to speak about later. It was a wonderful session.
Yes, yes. Thanks, Mridula. Thanks, Meghna, Anuj, sir,
Thank you,
and
sir.
everyone, and all the students there. Thanks so much. Yeah. Bye.